Hi, we are now getting another video put together and I'm so excited about this lesson. I've had so much fun putting it together for you, and I have really tried hard to pick out the words that will go really well with this lesson, and it's just taken a little bit of time. We also, it's harvest season right now all over the United States, but we processed 160 quarts of, Paul's actually trying to write what's on the board, but we've processed 160 quarts of peaches, and we have frozen 13 gallon-sized bags of peaches, and we've made pear leather. Now we have about 8 bushels of pears being stored in our garage waiting for them to ripen, and we'll be processing those as soon as those ripen up. But I just love to have fresh produce, or just really highly processed produce. It tastes completely different than what you buy in the store. So anyways, we've been really busy here, but this lesson has been on my mind for the last 3 weeks, and we are now getting it put together. Now, today we are really focusing on suffixes again. I know we've gone over suffixes, but it is so important that you understand a suffix and how to add them on, and your spelling rules that go with those suffixes, because this is the time when the most spelling errors happen in your spelling. So if you don't understand how to add on a suffix, you need to understand this. Now if you focus on the doubling rule, now the doubling rule is when you have a consonant, vowel, consonant in the accented syllable. Now the accented syllable, when you have a one-syllable word, is just the one syllable. You always look for the doubling rule, consonant, vowel, consonant in a one-syllable word. Because it's always accented. Now, if you have a two-syllable word, you always need to look for the accented syllable. Now, if it's an English word, then the accent is most likely in the first syllable. If it's a Latin root, which we have 50% of our language is confined, has Latin roots attached to it. So you would need to look for the Latin root, because the Latin root is almost always accented. And then you would look for the doubling rule with that. Now in a 3-syllable word or more, you don't have to look for a doubling rule when you add on your suffix. So because typically when you have a 3-syllable word or more, the accent will be in a 3-syllable word, it will be either the first or the second syllable. 4 or more, it would actually be in the 3rd syllable. Not always, because you will have a double accent in some words, but basically if you're trying to find the accent and you're trying to add on a suffix, that's kind of what you look for. Now we also have the change the Y to I rule. When you change the Y to I, then you always change your Y to I before you're adding on any suffix. Now, sometimes you drop the Y, and we went over that in another lesson with some suffixes. Now, also, you sometimes don't change the Y when you have a vowel in front of the Y, or a vowel team, however you want to remember it, but that is your spelling rule for changing the Y to I. And then we have dropping the E, your silent E. When do we drop our E's? Now we drop our E's when we add on a vowel suffix. We don't drop our E's when you add on a consonant suffix. So you need to really be careful with that. Understand when do you drop the E's and when don't you drop the E's. So that matters, because if you drop the E, it will make it so something could be short instead of long if you're dropping it when you're adding on a consonant suffix. So it could change the sound of the vowel that the E is affecting. So it's really important. You only drop the E when you're adding on a vowel suffix. So Daniel, when do you drop the E?
If you're adding on a vowel suffix.
A vowel suffix. Paul, do you drop the E when you're adding on a consonant suffix?
No.
No. Okay, so we are going to basically first start out right here with our suffix, with some words. I just pulled these off. Now, if you're a parent watching this and you just want your child to really focus on how to add on suffixes. Then you just pull off a bunch of words wherever, and then they can practice making nonsense words and pulling off and putting on the suffixes onto those words. Now, if you're a student, we are going to focus on how to just put them on these words that I just chose off the internet, and I just picked a whole bunch of words. That's why we have lots of B's and lots of A's here, because I just grabbed some words so that we can practice adding on just the suffixes that I chose to add on, that we are featuring in this lesson. So let's go ahead. We have act. Act is actually a Latin root, but we're going to look to see, well, do we have the doubling rule? Is this a constant vowel consonant? No, so we don't even have to worry about that. Do we have the change the Y to I? No. Or do we have a silent E? So you look at it, and especially if it's a one-syllable word, evaluate the word immediately to see if it's going to follow any of the spelling rules, and then add on, let's add on full to here. Okay, so, oh, I don't want to use black. So let's just add on full, okay? Act full. Now you need to remember, full is super important that you remember the spelling. Now, for your homework that I would give you if you were my student, I would say, okay, I want you to make sure that you write down every single one of these suffixes, and that you use them as a you practice spelling them, so you are spelling them correctly. Okay, so you are going to make sure you're spelling F-U-L. It only has one L as a suffix. Now the base word full has a double L, and it follows a spelling rule. If it has one vowel that ends in an L, you double it. But full as a suffix, you spell it F-U-L. So let's say act full, and we're gonna add S onto that. Okay, we still have to look for that, but we know in a two-syllable word, the Latin root is the accented syllable. And so this would be the accent, so you wouldn't double that one. Okay, so now arm. Now let's do armness. No, you don't have any of the spelling rules, so immediately look at your word. Don't spend a ton of time on it. If you study your spelling rules and you know them, then you just look at that. You know that it doesn't have any of the spelling rules, so let's just do ness onto this, armness. Okay, and so you have to follow the spelling rules with every single suffix. You still do the changing on here. So let's add itty onto here, armnicity, okay? You just add it on. Well, let's say we want to add on another suffix to this. You're going to change your Y to I before you add on any suffix. So let's do N-E-S-S again. So I know that we've already did ness, or let's just do less. Now remember, we have ness has a double S, less has a double S. Always, if they're a suffix, you need to spell them with the double S. Double S is on both of those, okay? So now, look, est. So we talked about est. It means the most. It's superlative. When you think of like super, I think of Superman. Okay, and so it's the most. So it will stand in the superlative, and we'll go over that a little bit more when we really get into our grammar. But I also like using the most. It's really simple, but I think it's also fun to really have the bigger words, because okay, band. Immediately look for your spelling rules. Is it a CVC? No, there's no Y, there's no silent E, so we're going to do us, O-U-S. Now, us means abounding or full of, so it's kind of has some of the same meaning as full, so full of the band, or abounding in the band. So now let's add less to that. So we just added on, L-E-S-S. We're not seeing anything. There's no consonant, vowel, consonant, no silent E, no Y. Now B, we have an E here, but this is not a silent E. It's actually saying it's long sound. So we're just going to add on itty. We're just going to add it on. Now itty is really interesting. Now look at itty right here. We have, it's a 2-syllable word. And with itty, I have looked into so many different words and I have never seen itty follow a spelling rule. It just adds on. And so I would just say if you're adding on itty as a suffix, you would just add it on. I know there is exceptions to the rule, and maybe it's because it's a big multi-syllable word. It really actually changed the accent in lots of different words to where the word is pronounced differently, but be-a-t. Okay, so, and now let's change, we have a Y here. So now it doesn't matter if you have to look at the spelling rules. Whenever you're adding a suffix, even if it's a suffix onto a suffix, you still change the Y to I before we add on our suffix. Now remember, it doesn't matter what kind of suffix you are adding on, as long you always change the Y to I, unless you are adding on a suffix that starts with an I. Okay, so now let's do bell. Now we're gonna do O-U-S. We're gonna just add it on because it doesn't follow any spelling rules. This doesn't follow any spelling rules. So let's do est. We're gonna just add it on. Belliest. Bellus est. So it's kind of hard to sometimes say nonsense words. Bind. Let's do ible. Bind ible. Whoops. What am I thinking? I-B-L-E. Okay? Now we do have a silent E in bindable. So Daniel, what are we going to do?
We're going to drop the E.
You're going to drop the E. Oh, but okay, so I actually,
What suffix
we're going to use the suffix less. Bindable. Are we going to drop that E?
No.
No, why not?
Because it's
Oops.
it's a consonant.
It's because this is a consonant. You're right. Okay, so be careful when you have a silent E. Make sure you're looking what kind of suffix are you adding on. Are you adding a consonant suffix or are you adding a vowel suffix? When you add a vowel suffix, you drop the E. When you add a consonant suffix, you don't drop the E. You just add it on. So now this says case. So does it follow a spelling rule here, Paul? Do we have to do something there with one of the spelling rules?
No.
We do.
Wait,
There's a silent E right here. You drop the E, but we have to, so what suffix are we adding on? I want to add ness on. So do we, if we're adding ness on to here, Daniel, do we drop that E?
No.
No, we don't, because it's a consonant suffix. So we are going to just add it on, and then are we going to need to do anything, Paul, when we add on O-U-S to N-E-S-S?
No.
No, we just add it on because this one doesn't follow any of the spelling rules. You just add this one on, okay? So now Gabby, Paul, do you do anything? Is there a spelling rule that will go to that word? What was that?
Change the Y to
Change the Y to I. Now I want to add itty onto this one. So would we change the Y to I if I added itty onto it?
drop the Y.
Nope.
Change it.
Nope.
No.
You leave it. Remember, you leave the Y if you're adding on a, whoops, that's a Y. If you're adding on a suffix that starts with an I. But Daniel, we have a Y here and I want to add full onto that. Do we do anything with that Y?
I don't think so.
You do, because you always change the Y to I before you add on your suffix. It doesn't matter the suffix. whatever it is, you just add it on. You just change the Y to I and you add on your suffix. Doesn't matter if it's a vowel or a consonant. The only time you have to worry about it is if you're adding on another suffix that starts with an I. That's the only time you guys have to worry about it. Does that make sense, boys?
Yeah.
Okay, so now permanently. Now this has a suffix added onto a base word. So Daniel, what are you going to do with that if I add on us to this? I want to add on us.
Change the Y to an I.
Change the Y to an I and add your vowel suffix. You always change the Y to an I. Okay, just remember that. And then once in a while you'll have words that will have you're adding on your vowel suffix. And most of the time that happens with your INGs. Okay, so now we're going to add on AN. Are we going to do anything with this? No, you just add it on. Doesn't follow any spelling rules right there. Okay, now let's do finger. We are going to add on ness. So fing is your base word, is your accented syllable. So you don't have to worry about doubling the R. So we're gonna just, and well, let's say we're gonna add on ible. You don't need to change it because this is your accented syllable. So now, Daniel, this has a silent E, and I want to add on full. Do we need to do something with that silent E?
Nope.
No, we just add it on because it's a consonant suffix. We only drop the E if it's a vowel suffix, okay? So vertical, we're gonna add full onto this. You just add it on because it's a consonant suffix. Now we're gonna add on est. It's a vowel suffix. Is there anything here? Do we have to do anything with this full?
No.
No, we don't, because look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4. You know there's no way that this full is the accented syllable. And so you don't need to double the L on here. So we would just, were we gonna do est? E-S-T, fullest. Okay, so now we have bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. That was my husband's, one of his favorite words because he loves to cycle. Anyways, so we have a silent E right here, Paul. Okay, I want to add on us to this bicycle us. Okay, do we need to do anything in this word? What do we need to do with that silent E, Paul?
Drop it.
You do, because you're adding on a vowel suffix. You drop the E when you're adding on a vowel suffix. Drop it. O-U-S. Now, we want to add on ness. Daniel, do we have to do anything with that? No, just add it on, okay? Now, that's how you would do this. Now these are all going to be nonsense words, so that's what's so important, that you just know the spelling rule. Have your parents look at it to see if you did the spelling rule correctly. Now we have bit. Now do we have to, we are going to add on OUS. Paul, do we need to do anything to this word, any of the spelling rules to this word right here?
No.
Daniel, do we need to do anything to this word right here?
Depends what you're putting on.
OUS.
Yeah.
What do you need to do?
Double it.
You need to double it. Paul, why do you need to double this?
C.
Okay? It's because it's a consonant, vowel, consonant. If you have a one-syllable word, you better be looking to see if it has any of the spelling rules, and especially the doubling rule, because if it's a one-syllable word and it's a consonant, vowel, consonant at the end, you need to double it if you're adding on a vowel suffix. So let's just say I want to add on the word, the suffix less. Paul, do we need to double this? No, because it's not a vowel suffix. You only have to double if you're adding on a vowel suffix. So now we can just add it on, because this vowel affects that vowel if you don't have two consonants in the middle. So you just need to be really bitless. Okay, now we're gonna add ness on. We just added on because this doesn't follow any of the spelling rules. There's no doubling rule, there's no dropping rule, there's no changing rule, okay? Bend. All right, so let's add ible. Bend, ible. Okay, we're even if this could be a real word, we're just adding ible on. Okay, we don't have anything here, so we're just adding it on, but we're gonna add est. Daniel, do you have to do anything with this if I'm adding est onto bendable?
Just drop the E and add EST.
Nice, you drop the E and add EST, or you could just say, well, you can keep the E and add ST. Either way, however your child can remember it is how you're supposed to be doing it. Okay, Paul, I'm going to add, here's bean, and I'm going to add est onto bean. Do we need to do anything here?
Wait, bean is where?
Right there.
No.
No, so beanist, you just add it on, okay? Beanist full, add it on, boom, add it on, add it on. So just make sure you look for those. Bank, there's no consonant vowel consonant, there's no silent E, there's no change the Y to I. So you know, boom, immediately you can just add it on. Doesn't matter. If you can see that they're not following any of those rules, just add your suffix on. And so is this following in the rules? No. Let's just add our suffix on. Okay? Antful. Remember, make sure you're spelling these suffixes correctly. So, antful, antful est. Now this does have a CVC, but this is your accented syllable. Okay? Now, aid, aidist. So is this a consonant vowel consonant? No. Add it on. There's no Y or E, just add it on. Add it on. Oops. Okay? There's no spelling rule here. Add it on. See? Is there a spelling rule here, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah. So if I want to add ness onto bag, do I need to double it? Do I need to double this if I add ness onto bag? No, you don't, because this is not a vowel suffix. It has to be a vowel suffix. So I can just go NESS, okay? But what if I want to add ible onto bag?
Double it.
You double it. Because this is a vowel suffix. Does that make sense, honey? Okay. Now, base. Do you have a spelling rule on this word?
Wait, what are you trying to add on?
Okay, let's add on us. So do we do anything with this word? Do we have a spelling rule on this word?
No. No.
What do you think, Dan?
You drop the E and add O-U-S.
Yeah. Nice. You drop the E and add O-U-S. If you have a silent E, you know you have a spelling rule that you better be aware of. If you have a silent E, you better be looking to see if you have a spelling rule. Okay? And once you see the silent E, then you look at the other letters. The silent E is your key, then to look at the other letters, and that's, so now, basis, base, full. You don't have any other things. How about this one, Paul?
Bed.
Yeah. Do you have, let's do.
You don't add anything.
Let's do a bedis.
I don't think you added anything.
Well, it's a consonant vowel consonant.
Yeah, you double it.
So you double it.
Yeah.
You look for the doubling rule, okay? So you double it before you add on your vowel suffix. But let's look at bed again. And I want to add full. Now do we double it?
No.
No, we don't double it because this is a consonant. You only double it when you add on a vowel suffix. Does that make sense, honey? Okay. Daniel, big.
You double it.
Double it.
And what you put on it.
Depending on what you put on it. Let's say, so we know we're gonna have the doubling rule. Let's say we wanna put on itty. Are we gonna double it?
Yeah.
Now remember with itty, now we wouldn't say biggity, but most of the time with itty you don't double it. But so let's pick a different one. Let's do est, biggest. Yeah, Paul.
So for CVC, and it's a vowel suffix, would you double it?
If it's a vowel suffix?
And CVC?
Consonant, vowel, consonant. Yes, a CVC, and you're adding on a vowel suffix, then you definitely double it. Consonant, vowel, consonant, you're adding on a vowel suffix, you double it. So Paul, if I add on est, do I double big?
Yes.
Okay, now do I have to do anything right here in this rule? No, because there's no CVC, there's no silent E at the end, there's no change the Y to I, so we just add our suffix on, okay? Daniel, do you do anything with this word? Is there anything that says that nope, then you add it on, okay? Okay, if it's not following anything, just add it on. Now, Paul, could this follow something?
Which one?
Gallop. Would you have to be careful if, yeah, you would. Now, this is a consonant vowel consonant. Do we need to double it?
Yes.
Now,
Well,
I can,
depending on what you put on it.
yeah, if it's the accented syllable. Now, let's say we're gonna put est onto it. Now, if you're gonna put on a vowel suffix, you have to be careful. Am I going to double it? Now, this is the accented syllable, so you don't double it, okay? So, est. Now let's say we were going to just add on a consonant suffix. You just add it on. Vowel suffixes matter when you're doing the doubling rule. Canopy. Paul, is there something here that you need to do?
Change the Y to I.
Nice, very good. You change the Y to I. Does it matter on our vowel suffix or not? Does it matter on our suffix?
No.
It doesn't. So let's just add ness on here. Okay? Canopiness. How about fearfully? This already has a couple suffixes on it. Daniel, what do you think right here? Do you have a spelling rule on this word?
Change the Y to
Yeah, let's just change it. I would always say we change the Y to an I, even though you know it can't have a double I. But most of them, you will always change the Y to an I and add your suffix. All right? Now, what I recommend that you do, we have full, est, nest, ible, us, less, est, less, nest,
Our times.
ible. It's time? Okay. We have ible, un. Now remember, this looks like it could be an, but when it is acting as a suffix, this is going to be in the unaccented syllable, so this will be schwa. And so it's going to say un. So un, and we have itty. Now, I would pause this video and take a few minutes, and I would write down everything that's in red. So I wrote the definition of every single one of the suffixes up above this. Now I know it's all squished together and it might be looking, but I only have one board, and so, but everything for the definition is in red. Now Paul, I want you to write down the definition. I want you to memorize your suffixes along with the definition, okay? If it's hard for you to memorize the definition, at least memorize how to spell the suffix. Okay, so, but anyways, hopefully I stood aside enough for you to do that. Now, everything else I had to change because my purple stopped working, so I have purple and green. Now, everything else in the green and the purple from here over, we are going to, I'm actually going to erase some of this so we can see these words a little bit better. Oh, dang it, I erased one of my words. I'll rewrite it. All right, now we are going to focus on, these words are going to be real words that I chose, and I was really picky on the words that I chose so it could help you understand how to add on these suffixes and how you can make and change your words to mean something. Your words, as you add on suffixes, it'll change the position of the base word into different positions. Sometimes it'll change it into a noun, sometimes it'll change it into an adverb or an adjective or a verb, depending on what your suffix is. And so it's really important that you understand your suffixes and your base words. So now look at this. We have joy. We're gonna do joyful. Now look at this. We have the Y. How come I just added full onto that, Dan?
Oh, because it's a vowel team.
It's a vowel team, exactly. It has an OY, and that's a vowel team. It's teaming up together to make one sound. So, or you could always look at it and say, well, it has a vowel in front of the Y, so we know we don't change the Y to I. So we just add joyful. Now, let's add est onto it. Do we need to do anything right here, Paul, to add est onto joyful est? The most joyful.
No.
No, you just add it on, because joy is your accented syllable. So we just add it on. Now we have peaceful. Now we have a CE. With a silent E, you're always looking to see, oh, do I do anything? But since we're adding on a consonant suffix, sorry guys, I'm a little bit off kilter here. Peaceful, peaceful est, okay? So just add them on. Peace is still your base word, and so you're not doing any doubling here. Not base word, but your accented syllable. It is still your base word, but it's your accented syllable. Master, mass is your accented syllable. So if we're adding on full, do we have anything right here if we're going to add on this full, Paul?
So
for master, I'm adding on full, so we're going to have masterful. Do we need to do any spelling rules if we add this on?
Double?
Well, it looks like you would have to look for the doubling rule, but if you know that you are not adding on a vowel suffix, then you know you don't have to worry about the doubling rule. You only worry about it if you're adding on a vowel suffix. So you just add it on.
Yeah.
Okay? And then we have masterful est. Okay? How about harmful? There's no rule there. You're just going to add it on. Add it on. All right? Just make sure you're looking for those things. Now, now look at this. We have visible. Now, how do we know that that is spelled with an ible? Okay, visible, 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 visible. I mean, can you really hear the I? I mean, you have to really know how to pronounce it. Visible, for you to really hear it and understand it. And so I would actually put this down that you need to have this as a spelling word. I personally think ibles should be on a spelling rule list. Now we do have maybe some ideas that might help you with that, but right here, vis tells you immediately this is a Latin root. Ible is with Latin roots. Now, vis means to see, and it's Latin, meaning to see. So if you can think see, it's visible, it's a Latin root, it's ible. So this might help you a little bit to help you understand when do we put ible on, okay? They go with Latin roots. The Latin root for cred is credio, and it means worthy or of belief. Okay, so when you think somebody is a credible witness, then they are worthy of believing that they actually saw what happened. So this is your Latin root. See how ible is tied to your Latin root. Okay, now we have bitter. This is a consonant vowel consonant. Hey honey, that'll turn your nose purple. Yeah, because it'll take the blood to your nose. And it'll turn your nose actual purple, and it'll be like that for like 4 or 5 days. Okay, so now we have the word bitter. Now we're just gonna add ness onto it, so you don't have to look for the doubling rule because this is a consonant suffix. So you can just add it on, right? Bitterness. Sleepy. Daniel, do you have to do anything with this sleepy to add on ness?
Yes.
Yeah, what do?
Change Y.
You change the Y. You always change the Y to an I, okay? Now, gentle, Paul. Do you do anything with this before you add on ness?
I drop the E.
Nope, we only drop the E if you're adding on a vowel suffix.
Oh.
So you just add it on, okay? Gentleness. So the reason why, let's say we drop that E, now guess what? This syllable doesn't have a vowel, and every syllable has to have a vowel. Does that make sense, boys? Okay, so we have, oh, did we do suppress? We didn't do suppress. Now we're gonna add ible onto this. Look, there's no spelling rules that we have to be, but look, press right here is a Latin root. Sup, when you start really identifying your chameleons, all of a sudden, sometimes you can almost identify your chameleons before you can identify your Latin root. And then once you identify your chameleon, you're going, ooh, that could be a Latin root. Not always is the look of a chameleon a Latin root, on a Latin root, but most of the time. And you say, oh, that is a chameleon. This is a Latin root, and we have ible attached to this Latin root, okay? So now we have covet. Now cov is your accented syllable. Now this is an unusual word because this is saying it's schwa sound right here. And most of the time it should say covet, but it doesn't. So sometimes things do turn to schwa even though they're accented, but so we're just gonna add ous because if you know where the accent is, then you don't have to worry about the doubling rule. So this word would probably be tricky. I would put that as a spelling word, covetous. So Daniel, do you have to do anything to this word to add us onto it?
Yeah.
What?
Change the Y.
Change the Y to an I and add ous, glorious. Paul, do you have to do anything to this word to add us onto it?
Wait, which word?
Nerve. Do you have to change anything to nerve to add us onto it? You do.
Yes,
you
yes,
drop the E and add ous. Now we have seamless. Do we do anything to this, Paul, to add?
No.
Just add it on. Doesn't follow any spelling words. How about this one? We're doing less.
You don't add anything.
Nope, you just add it on. It doesn't follow any spelling rules. How about speech, Dan?
Nope.
Just add it on. Speechless. How about wreck, Paul?
Wreck.
Reckless. What are we gonna do?
We're gonna just add it on.
Yeah, just add it on. It doesn't follow any spelling rules. But how about this one?
Well, are you talking to me or Paul?
Sure.
You drop the for EST.
Yeah, for
Okay,
EST.
Drop the E and.
Okay, how about wise? What are you gonna do, Dan?
You're gonna drop the E and add EST.
All right, very good. How about warm, Paul? What are you gonna do here?
Warm.
We're gonna do warmest. Just add it on. There's no spelling rule to that. How about weightless? What are we gonna do here?
Weightless, you add it on.
Just add it on. There's nothing there. But how about if we put ness on, Daniel? Do we do anything with that? There's no CVC, there's no silent E, there's no Y. Just add it on, you guys. Daniel, friendly. Now look at friendly. This has a suffix onto it, but it doesn't matter if it has a suffix. You still follow the spelling rules, okay? Do we have a spelling rule here?
Yes.
Yeah. What are we gonna do, Paul? We want to
change the Y to I.
Change the Y to I. You always change the Y to I. Let's just remember, change the Y to I. I mean, unless you have a double I. And add it on, okay? Now, let's do red. Do we do anything here to add redness?
Double it.
Well, you wouldn't double it because this is not a consonant, and this is not a vowel.
Oh, sorry.
Does that make sense?
Right.
So you just added on redness. Now, I love ness because it really helps us understand. So we took red, and it's an adjective. The red wall, the red house, the red shirt. See how it's an adjective? It's describing something. Now, we now added the suffix ness onto it, and it has now changed this into an abstract noun. The redness in the wall made me smile. The redness in the wall was super bright. Red's my favorite color. Most of my house is mostly white and some gray, but I had to have an accent wall, so with my favorite color. So anyways, that's why we have red. But see how it changes it. Now we have redness. The redness, see how that is your noun, that's your abstract noun. Do you guys see that? How that's your abstract noun? And then you have of the wall. Now you have your prepositional phrase is beautiful. So, excuse me. So this is like the weightlessness. So this has now turned into an abstract noun. We have now friendly, ly is almost always an adverb, and it tells you how something happened, almost always. But sometimes you have these weirdo imposters that are actually adjectives. Now friendly is one of those imposter adjectives. That means like if you think the friendly horse, the friendly boy, the friendly man. See how friendly is describing that noun? So that's an adjective. Now, when we put ness onto it, this has now changed this into an abstract noun. So if you see ness, it's almost always a noun, an abstract noun. Okay, so it will change, it can change your adverbs, it changes lots of words into abstract nouns. Now let's put it in a sentence. We have the friendliness of the man made me feel happy. Okay, so see how you have, now you have friendliness is your actual noun, of the man is your prepositional phrase, so that's not even part of your subject and your simple subject and your simple predicate. It's not part of that. And so see how it just changes its meaning once you add on your suffixes. So I think it's really important for you to understand what ness does to a sentence. Okay, so now let's look at apprehend. Now we're going to go over a little bit more what ible does. Now another thing with ible that is really interesting is if you have an nd, you know, oh, I better look and see if this is an ible, because if nds can be ibles or they can be ubles. But this is one of those things that you would look for. Now we're going to, but there's some drastic changes that happen when you do these. You would say sible, apprehensible. Okay, so that's one of those examples. Now look. Now you're just going to add it on. Now there's your Latin root, here's your chameleon, and also ible is connected to the CT. Not always, but oftentimes when you see a CT, you will see that it will be an ible. Okay, so now we have we have American. Often these will also have A's at the end, and you would just drop your A and add your AN, or you can teach it, just add your N. American means a person from America. Mayan. Okay, so a person, itty. Now remember what I said, when you have itty, most of the time you don't even have to worry about your doubling rule. Just add it on, acidity, reality. Now remember, real looks like it could be a base word. I mean, it's one syllable word, but it's actually a two syllable word, reality. Let's look at, we're gonna talk and really focus on ible. Now boys, I really want you to focus and pay attention to this, because I think this is something that is so crazy fun and awesome that I think it's really, really important for you guys to pay attention to. So now, most common spelling changes in a word are the words that end in silent E. So silent E's, you have to be really careful with when you're focusing on them with ible, especially with the C. Now look how fun this is. When you have a soft C sound, what is a soft C sound? Do you guys know? Nice, very good. What would be a hard C sound? Very good, it's the K sound. So when you have a soft C sound and you are putting it in a word, you're adding on ible as your suffix, soft C's go with ible oftentimes, okay? So this is an example. This is a Latin root and it says fence. See how this, so you would drop this E and add I-B-L-E, okay? And see how this is a soft C sound? So it has more of a chance that it could be an ible if you have a soft C, you guys. But a hard C is always followed by ible, always. I'm sure there's an exception to the rule, but it's always followed by ible. Also, ible, they're really old words. And we talked a little bit about that, but they're really old words. Okay, they come from the Latin origin. Sometimes the Latin origin, but also maybe even in the French area, which is super interesting. Also, what's really helpful for you to know when you guys are trying to figure out, should I use ible or ible, ATE, that unit, syllable, or when it's acting as a suffix, whatever. If you have ATE, it will always be ABLE. You don't even have to worry about it being IBLE. It will always be ABLE. But look at this. So this word says eradicate. Sometimes you still have a drastic change in your word. So here we're going to take the TE off and put BLE. Okay? So sometimes you really have to change the word before adding on your ible or ible. We had another word up here. I can't find it. Oh, right here. That you had to do a drastic change where you dropped the D, or you actually changed the D and an S. And there's a lot of words in our language that you have to watch for the D. But look what happened. So we have eradicable right here. But look what happened here. Is this the hard C sound? It is. And see how this is the soft C sound. Ible and hard C is ABLE. If you know it's going to be a hard C sound, you don't even have to guess. It will always follow an ABLE, which I think is actually really super interesting. Also, Latin roots will never end with a hard G. They always end with a soft G. And so sometimes you just need to be careful. Sometimes it'll also be a soft G and not, now what's the soft G sound, boys?
G.
Oh.
J.
J. So just like this changes to S when it's followed by an E, I, or Y, the G's change to J when it's followed by an E, I, or Y, and that is considered its soft sound. Does that make sense? So what's the hard sound of a G? G. So Latin roots will never end with a hard G sound. Okay, only soft C's. So that might be helpful when you're doing that also. Now, it's really interesting because ABLE is a living productive suffix. And so that's the reason we have all these new words are ABLE. So IBLE are the old surviving words that we have from our Old English, and so that has actually survived into our modern English. Okay, so now we talked about, I really picked out some words that are focusing on IBLE. Now remember, these are all connected to Latin roots. Now most of the time, they're connected to Latin roots, okay? So oftentimes they will be connected to the CT here, okay? So I picked out ones, so not always will they be a CT, but oftentimes. Ible, compact ible, okay? And you can see that there's no CVC, there's no CVC. You still look, lots of Latin roots will have CVCs. So you still look, compact ible, contractible. Tract means to pull, okay? Constructible, deductible, okay? So if you see a CT, I would look it up to see if it's able. If you didn't know if you didn't have this memorized, I would look it up. This is identifying it, boys, right there, that it could be an ible. Now, accessible. So these are also Latin roots. See, these are your chameleons. Look at these fun chameleons right here. It immediately says, oh, I could be a Latin root. So, and we'll go over those. So, ible, accessible, eruptible, okay? Collectible. See how this is a CT? Resistible. Okay? Now, I've picked up, so we have the NDs, and these are all ibles. So when you have an ND, now not every ND is like this, but it identifies this could be an ible. All right? So we have, we're going to drop the D, and we're going to say S-I-B-L-E. Whoops, that is not written very nicely, but now, so I'll just rewrite this whole thing. Defensible. Defensible. You're gonna get rid of the D and add an S-I-B-L-E, okay? Respondable. Get rid of the D and put an S-I-B-L-E, okay? Comprehensible. Okay, this lesson was so fun. I hope that you learned tons from this lesson and really incorporate this in your life. It will help you so much, and I just had fun teaching it. So thanks, and we'll see you in the next lesson.